Welcome to another episode of In the Garden Shop with Michael Toolson. This episode we go outside the garden shop to talk about tomatoes. It's the first week of September in Boise, Idaho. If you have tomatoes at all this year, you're a lucky person. Two things we're going to talk about is a way to grow tomatoes, and the other is what problem that I'm facing this year are my tomatoes not ripening. So what we're going to talk about is a great way to hasten the ripening of your tomatoes, and also a new way I found to grow tomatoes. So we're going to head over to the garden area and film a little bit about tomatoes. Okay, here we are out in the garden area. I'm using right here on this tomato plant, most commonly used tomato cage, which I find it to be wimpy, not enough for this variety of tomato. And the only reason it's being held up is I've had to add extra wire in the back to support the plant. One thing I touched on before was how to hasten the ripening of the fruit. We're going to take care of that right now. Some simple ways. First thing is, late in the season, is tugging on the roots of the plant. That will tell the plant it's time to mature the fruit and speed the process up. Another way is to trim the top of the plant off. It's late September. Any flowers you have now are certainly not going to be producing tomatoes. This will run out of season. So to cut off any flowers, reduce the amount of tomatoes left over so that energy can be put into the tomatoes. This is the most traditional way. This is the way most everybody plants their tomatoes. I want to introduce you to a whole new way of thinking about growing tomatoes. They are a vine. To treat them as such, and we're going to move over to that area and I'm going to show you a fantastic way to grow tomatoes. Here we are, a horizontal approach to growing tomatoes. What I did is I went out and bought 8 posts, split them in half, set them in the ground, put this piece of, what it is galvanized fencing that I purchased at the farm store. It measures 4 feet by 20 feet long, and placed it on top via these braces underneath. Put 14 tomato plants underneath here. And what I found out early on is that I was able to throw plastic over the top in the springtime when it was cold, and then later on in the summer as they grew, I was able to throw shade cloth over the top of them. There's a misconception in tomatoes that hotter is better. 85 to 90 degrees is about perfect, and after that you're going to lose your buds because they're going to drop off because of stress. So this was a huge factor in my tomatoes this year, was being able to shade my tomatoes out through this cage that I built. I put a teepee set up above there, didn't run into the tomatoes, and just worked out very slick. The other thing that I found out is that I was able to prune the tomatoes off underneath, and that's important so you get aeration and cooling of the tomato plant. I threw my mulch down, which is important, and my water, because of the shade created by the canopy, kept the moisture consistent with the tomatoes, which is another key factor in growing tomatoes. It's not too wet, not too dry, but consistently moist. Once again, an inexpensive, easy way to grow tomatoes. It's accessible. You don't have a 50-foot tall tomato plant where it's breaking over and losing tomatoes. Simple, easy way to throw tomatoes together, and I recommend it to everybody. Once again, 4 by 20 feet for $60. Check it out. What a nice row of tomatoes. Cherokee Purple, great variety. Look at the size of these. Great success this year via great setup. Happy gardening.